Hi, guys, and welcome to episode one of the Back to the Roots podcast. Before we dive into the week one's action of the Division 1 of the County Championship and Division 2, just want to quickly run through the format. So, there are 18 counties in England which are split into two different divisions. The top division, which is Division 1, has 10 teams, and the bottom one, Division 2, has 8. There's a 2 up and a 2 down promotion and relegation system. So this year, Gloucestershire and Yorkshire were relegated from Division 1 to Division 2, and Middlesex and Nottinghamshire were promoted from Division 2 to Division 1. So each county will play 14 matches, 7 at home and 7 away. And each of them, of course, the rule of the overseas players being there can be a maximum of 2 for each team. And this year, they've introduced the bonus point system, which is for batting. There are different rules which can give you different bonus points. So if you score 200 to 299 runs, you get one bonus point. 300 to 349 gives you two. 350 to 399 gives you three. 400 to 449 gives you four. And 450 runs or over gives you five bonus points. And for bowling, there's one bonus point if you take 3 to 5 wickets in an innings. If you take 6 to 8, you get two bonus points, and 9 to 10 it gives you three bonus points. Just a side note that all of these bonus points are only available for the first 110 overs of the first innings. Doesn't matter whether you're batting or bowling. That is the rule for bonus points. So I know it gets a bit complicated with the bonus point system, but I think it's essential for teams to keep this in mind since it's a league stage and not a knockout championship in general.
So
So
it's
let
possible for teams to have a 100-point season.
exactly. So starting off with the first game, which is Essex versus Middlesex. So there are a lot of narratives to talk about here. First is that it was Middlesex's first game back in Division 1 after 6 years, and they were playing at Lords, so it was a historic game for them. Unfortunately, for them, the game didn't turn out that way. And actually, to before I start that, the fact that the game took place itself was great. The weather in London was horrible pre-match and horrible post-match. So those 4 days saw a good amount of sunshine, which is always good to see in London. But yes, first game back in 6 years, and they have got absolutely humiliated in possibly Essex stalwart Sir Alistair Cook's last game at Lords. Possibly, he has a 1 year contract, so hopefully he re-signs with another team or maybe with Essex again. So starting off, Essex and one of England's next big things, Dan Lawrence started strong with 100. He was really patient early on in his innings, and once he got closer to the 100 mark, he really accelerated well and got them to a really say a decent total, which in hindsight was a decent total. Maybe at the time didn't really look like it. Captain of Middlesex, Toby Rowland Jones, took 7 for, and this is when the fun for the Middlesex top order started. At the start of the first innings for Middlesex, the score was 4 wickets for 4 runs, and all those 4 runs were scored by extras. So clearly not a good got a good comeback for the Middlesex top order. But
Makes me feel good as an RCB fan, to be honest.
of course. But yes, this is I remember there were people around the ground talking about what is the lowest county championship first inning score ever, and can we beat that? That was the chat that was happening around the ground. But there was a solid middle order partnership, and that just kept them in the game. And second innings again solid by Essex, decent amount of runs scored. So at the end, I think Middlesex needed around 300 runs, 310 odd in the final innings to score to get a famous win, maybe that nobody would have expected. And we hoped that the top order of Eskenazi and co would fire. And unfortunately, just like they did in the first innings, top order collapse was due. So they were 40 for 4 this time, which is, I mean, 10 times better than their first innings performance. So credit to the batsman. But yeah, jokes apart, I think everybody after that top order collapse thought that the game would end pre lunch on the final day. But Ryan Higgins, who's an all rounder, 28-year-old all rounder, Luke Coleman, and again, Middlesex captain actually from until the last year, Stephen Eskenazi, who scored over 7,000 runs for them. These three had really good innings. Eskenazi, I think, scored just under 50, and both Higgins again just under 50, and Luke Holman scored a 50. And these guys tried to hold fort for the longest time, but unfortunately couldn't. To great Essex bowling. Apparently, it's being talked about as one of the best pace attacks in the UK this year. So eventually, Essex won by 97 runs. Middlesex were bowled out for 210 on the final day. Everybody could go back for tea a few hours early, and Jamie Porter ended up with match figures of 9 for 69, which is a great start to somebody who's been talked about a lot in the domestic circuit. So yeah, not a good start for Middlesex, and Essex have clearly proved that they could be title challengers with the team that they have. You're muted.
One of the games was between Somerset and Warwickshire. Um, it was a tame draw between the two sides, but there were although some good performances from either of the two teams. The first innings, like the bowlers did most of the damage. Like it wasn't one person who was taking all of the wickets. It was pressure from both the ends. Um, but from the batting perspective, it was like the game was more so dependent upon who will score more of the bonus points, because the weather, like Atharva mentioned, it wasn't pretty good this week around, and like people were expecting that um, it might be one of the days where like the teams might bat the other team out, or like we can get a result at the end, but it wasn't so. Even though Somerset were bowled out within 90 overs, they scored 284 runs, which was a decent score due to their captain, who scored like a decent 65. But after that, the opposition came out, and due to a solid middle order partnership between Sam Hain and Alex Davies, they were able to like outscore and get the first innings lead. Although they were able to score 392, they didn't have much time left to like force a result, and it ended up being a tame draw.
Yeah, but just
Not,
like to like interrupt there, but
yeah,
as much as Atharva did mention that Essex does have one of the best pace attacks, the bowling attack of Somerset is one to like it's a force to reckon with. They have Jack Leach, Craig Overton, and yeah, it's a like a pretty. I think they have they have Peter Siddle as one of their overseas, and we know how he bowls in those conditions, a really good swing. And they also have their captain, Lewis Gregory, I think, a left arm pacer, a right arm pacer, my bad, really good all rounder. So I think the Somerset, although they weren't the dominant side in this game, I think they're a pace attack that is a force to reckon with this season.
but Craig Overton is like a person who might be looking out this county season. He might be looking out for some of the wickets because the Ashes is coming around, and like if he has a good like a few set of matches, he can be in the running for the one of the Ashes spots. And
Yeah.
there are no hopes like who can be the like fourth or the fifth pacer. He can be one of the slots, and he has shown that he has the potential to be in one of those spots. Yeah, Kent opted to ball first in the first game of the Division One. It was a good decision as they were able to bowl out the opposition for like nearly 117, and like this is going to be crucial for them because they were able to extract the bonus points for claiming the 10 wickets within like 35 overs. The bowling was on point, and Matthew Quinn and Stewart were the most lethal bowlers for the side, as Quinn scalped like around like 4 wickets for like a cheap economy of like 2.5, and Stewart was able to like he had an amazing spell, like 5 overs, 4 maidens, and 3 wickets. So maybe like Boland-esque. Then Kent, Kent, Zach Crawley. We have to like I think we have to talk about him. He needs to have a big season again, and he started it off well, like with a 91. He could have gotten 100, but Chris Tremaine came and caught him. So 91 or 171 balls. His strike rate is okay. Maybe not the liking of Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum, but maybe he can improve in the coming games.
I think Zach Crawley's been training really hard at the MCC for a potential call up to the England side. I don't know where he'll fit in, but you never know. He's one of the next big things.
He's opening the batting, so that's a good thing because that's one like the top three are the spots that are like the crucial ones for England. And like I think so, the selectors might be looking at the county championships to decide the top three before like placing the squad. So yeah.
Of course. Of course. Moving on to Ved.
Kent got a handy 105-run lead, and the first innings ball out may have disrupted the team's morale, but they didn't show it in the second innings. They they had a pretty good partnership with Keogh and G. Berg, with as they were able to score like 331. It was a great total. Like they got bowled out for 331, so they had the lead of like about 228 runs, which can be like a tricky score on like an English wicket. So, but at the end of the day, Kent were able to chase it because of Brent Compton, who scored like around 114 runs and took the game till the end, along with Jack Leaning, who ultimately won them the game.
So now we move on to the south of England, where we're at the Rose Bowl, and Nottinghamshire have travelled away to take on Hampshire. Wasn't the greatest of starts for a team that had come back up from the second division in Nottinghamshire. They lost outright, and it was a pretty low-scoring game in typical English conditions, overcast, ball is moving both ways, and also quite a damp wicket from what I read. Um, Mohammad Abbas took 9 wickets in the entire game, with picking up 6 in the first innings, which is a very good sign. For Hampshire, James Wince got a 50, doing well in the first innings. Nottinghamshire really have to look at their top order and middle order, as they failed to do well in both their innings. Low scoring game for both sides, but batsmen like Hasib Hamid and Ben Duckett will have to pick up their game if Nottingham have to see out the season, because it's a long season and they're going to need their batsmen to bat deep and play well as well. One good thing and one positive takeaway for Nottinghamshire was they were able to bowl out Hampshire for mere 232 after a low-scoring first innings. And seeing that their fast bowling attack has picked up wickets is a very positive sign, because when they return to Trent Bridge, which is an open ground by the river, there's going to be a lot of wind, and it's known to be a windy ground where the ball moves a lot. So that's a very good pickup and a very positive sign for
And
Nottinghamshire.
also, Ollie Stone is one of those candidates we were speaking about who could be the possible fifth bowler for England in the Ashes. Maybe we have names like Ollie Robinson,
Craig
Ollie
Overton.
Stone, Craig Overton. So these guys are the ones who've been, one really good season can actually be their ticket back into the England squad for the
And
fifth.
even for Mohammad Abbas, he like the first day of the championship starting, the social media was buzzing after he took that six for. It was like obviously pinpoint ball, pinpoint line and accuracy, and like he was all over the batsman. So
Yeah, I
it was a
mean,
great thing to watch also.
he's one of the stalwarts, right? Like, interestingly, he joined the team in 2021, and after his six for, he's already become the team's second most successful bowler in history, which is crazy, right? Like, in 2 years,
Yeah.
he's become something of like a cult
And
leader.
yeah, people have also compared him to, his ability to Glenn McGrath and Mohammad Asif one. Like
But
Mohammad Asif is somebody who's
the
held
one
in
thing,
really high regard.
the one thing that still surprises me, he's still not one of the main bowlers for the Pakistan team. Like he's not able to replicate the same stuff that he's doing in the county for the national team. Like whenever they have traveled to England or something like that. So
I mean, Pakistan doesn't give wickets conducive
There's
to that.
also
So, yeah.
something to look at for Pakistan, because their Pakistani bowlers haven't really done well at home as well. So maybe this
Yeah.
could be a morale
yeah,
booster for them.
I think Shaheen has a stint with one of the
Yeah,
county teams this season.
Yeah.
perfect. Go on with
Yeah, so good win, I'd say, for Hampshire, picking up 10 wickets in both innings, adding to their bonus points as well. They've not only have they added to their bonus points, they've restricted Norths from picking up bonus points by keeping them below 200 in both innings. And also, they've not allowed Nottinghamshire to take wickets in the fourth innings, where they were chasing a mere total of 133, which could prove to be tricky on the third day or the final session of the third day. But getting them over the line, it was done by Fletcher Middleton, who got 50s in both innings, and Nick Gubbins as well. Probably one of the more tricky parts of the game to bat in, restricting Nottingham from getting more than 2 wickets, stopping their bonus points, and ensuring they bank most of the bonus points from that game, especially through their bowling. And for the next game, we move up north to Old Trafford, where there was a game between two heavyweights in Surrey and Lancashire. A lot of eyes were on both both the teams, because a lot of English players or players who played for England uh, were a part of this game, but none of them really seemed to have ticked off in the first innings. But a great recovery for Surrey after losing 5 wickets for 164, and then Cameron Steele stole the show from players like Ollie Pope, Dom Sibley, Rory Burns by getting a lower order 141 of 182 at a place like Old Trafford, which is really commendable. Not something that everybody can do. A lot of eyes on him now. Sean Abbott helped him, played the anchor role along with him, chipped in runs with the bat, and also contributed with the ball in the first 20 overs of the first innings. It's a very surprising game because Surrey went on to get over 442, and the home team were bundled out for a mere 291. So, not the greatest of first innings starts, or not the greatest start for Lancashire after a really good season last year for them as well. Probably with James Anderson coming back, they might have a better bowling attack, might strengthen their team sooner or later in the future. Uh, Ben Fowkes got 76 in the first innings and got a quality 100 in the second innings, where Surrey declared and tried to win the game outright. But gritty batting from Lancashire on the final day saw them see out the game and made sure they got some bonus points in as well. Even though they couldn't get points off an outright victory or a lead, I think it was important for them and the team's morale not to lose outright in the first game. So that sums up the two games in the southern coast of England and northwest of England.
Yeah, I think that was really cool. Like I was watching, I don't know if y'all could have caught it, but I watched like the first 20 overs of the Surrey bowling innings to Lancashire, and man, they were hooping them. Like it was Abbott from one end, Roach from the other. It was just exceptional bowling. Like I was surprised, like that no wickets fell in those first 20 overs actually. Like if looking at like the Middlesex game, it honestly wasn't anything exceptional. When you read a scorecard of first innings 4 down for 4 and the second innings 40 for 4, it looks like okay, the bowlers would have been mind blowing, or the conditions would have been horrible. It was none of that. It was just loose, like short selection, and some of those, like I think maybe just pressure got to them. Whereas with Surrey, you could see like the Lancashire openers, even though the bowling was exceptional, I felt in the first 20 overs, nothing really happened. Like I think it was Keaton Jennings, was it? I think who
Yeah,
opened.
it was Keaton Jennings who was playing up to Surrey.
Like it was great. Like great to see, like just top quality bowling and the batsmen just hanging on there, which I think Middlesex.
We talked about Sean Abbott. He again needs to have like a great season, because we are seeing more and more of like overseas players coming into the county to prepare for their overseas tours to England whenever the time comes. And like when I was seeing Abbott's bowling and even the batting, the lower order batting needs to improve for like almost all the county teams. So because these runs can be valuable in the long run, even for the players and for the teams as well.
Yeah, I think that's all right. As like everybody here at the podcast, we all feel that this domestic cricket, and especially such a long season like April to September in county cricket, is really defining towards who's going to be in the England squad, especially in a year as Ved was mentioning, which is the Ashes year, where you never know what can happen, right? Everyone wants that one big break. Everyone wants a Scotty ball in their side. So
And
yeah, I think that wraps
and
up
also
talk.
over these two games, seeing so many English batsmen, England have always struggled to find an opener since Alistair Cook. I think it's important to look at a few of these players, whether it's openers or top order in terms of Ollie Pope, Hasib Hamid. They really need to pick it up because
Keaton
Australia are coming
Jennings,
hard at them.
yeah. Keaton
Keaton
Jennings is
Jennings,
Australia,
another big name
Keaton Jennings,
who
Ben
missed
Duckett.
out in his game,
Rory
but
Burns,
yeah,
Ollie Pope. There
yeah.
are so
Yeah,
like there are uncountable names they have used
yeah.
since his
So
retirement.
they can't have. I think it's important for them not to have 2 or 3 games where they get big runs. They have to be consistent throughout the season, because I think Australia is going to come hard at them. They haven't won in England in a while now, and Sean Abbott, this experience is going to help him, because Pat Cummins has had personal problems. Hazelwood is dealing with an injury, and Stark is injury prone as well. So the fourth spearhead who can also offer batting for Australia could be Sean Abbott. So a lot is
Like
dependent on
I
this.
see Sean Abbott in the Ashes squad because even like their fourth or fifth choice bowler like Jai Richardson is injured right now.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like if Sean Abbott
You're
is
forgetting
like
Scotty Boland.
Scotty B.
Lance Morris is also there.
And I mean, Lance Morris has been spoken about as like the greatest second coming of Sean Tate. So we don't know with Lance Morris if what's
I
gonna
There was
happen.
think
no chance to see him in
talking,
India.
yeah, talking about overseas players, I think is the perfect segue into going to the Division 2, where all Indians would have had their eyes on Cheteshwar Pujara. So it was Durham versus Sussex, and it was Pujara of Sussex, who's the captain of Sussex, against a really, really good Durham bowling attack. It was the Pujara versus Kuhneman again,
I think it
and
was the first time like an Indian was a captain of
Mhm.
a county team also. So like
I think
that
we're
was
seeing
also
a little bit of an overlap here with Rishi Sunak and Cheteshwar Pujara coming in.
Let's go.
But yeah,
Indian.
but notably, Pujara was actually one of the top scorers of last year's county championship as well. So Pujara again versus a really good bowling attack. Matty Potts again, somebody who made his debut for the England Test team recently, is another talent to look out for the fourth pacer. And then we also have a limited overs bowler who Bryden Cars. He made his debut a couple of years back for the limited overs team. But again, Pujara, it's a really big thing for Indians to look out for, because he would be preparing for that World Test Championship final to be played in the next few months in England, right? And he got a solid first innings 100 against this really good bowling attack. And so basically Durham batted first. They scored a good solid 376, and in reply, Pujara with his 100 put up a target close to that. So going into the second innings, the match was pretty evenly placed, which then again really good performances from Sussex in the Sussex bowling. Hudson Prentice and Henry Crocombe, they basically took 4 apiece and bundled out Durham for 189, which left a target of 232 for Sussex to get in the fourth innings. And it wasn't really anybody who really stood out in that fourth innings, but that chase went down to the wire, and Sussex edged out a 2-wicket win in that particular game. So something really, if people are really looking, to find some context, or anybody is looking to find some context for Division 2, there's some really big names in Division 2, maybe looking to get promotion into Division 1. Another game where you see a few big names was actually where we had Yorkshire versus Leicester. Yorkshire, the home of Joe Root. Some really big names do come from Yorkshire. And yeah, the first innings was both teams putting up scores of over 400, which basically, to keep in mind, gives both teams some really good bonus points, even if a draw plays through, right? So these games are really big. So yeah, Yorkshire posted 517 in the first innings on the back of Finlay Bean, a 20-year-old, scored 100, and then there was a big name again, David Malan, somebody who's been in and around the England team, could possibly be back into the team.
He was
Yeah.
claimed to be like another player, like who will be in all the formats for everyone. Like maybe England's Virat Kohli, they used
And
to
he
call
was
him something.
he was
Yeah.
England's world's #1 T20 batsman for some time. He was picked up by
Yeah.
Kings 11 Punjab as well.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, the thing is, the point is, again, I think he did have a couple of good test innings as well. But then, it's again, consistency is what they're looking for. They need somebody to really be, and now with Ollie Pope really, cementing his position, and you have somebody like, Zach Crawley, Dan Lawrence. These players are players who can, move 1 or 2 positions up or down. So if David Malan really wants to make a comeback, he needs to get some really big scores.
The
Talking,
youngster,
yeah.
the youngster also took wickets, no? That Rehan Ahmed, he needs to take.
Exactly, yeah. So moving on, in the second innings, Leicester actually made a comeback. We have Peter Handscomb, an Australian player who we again saw could possibly. I think he will. He had a few good performances in India. So I think he actually is somebody who they keep in the squad to fill in for somebody if there are any injuries, or they need somebody to be a utility player. So Peter Handscomb. And then talking about what Satik was saying, Rehan Ahmed, he's been this prodigious leg spinner for England. They've taken him to Pakistan to bowl for them there, and he's actually somebody I think they're really looking forward to having in the future. And he came up with some really good. So he got a 3 for in the first innings, and also chipped in with a really crucial 85 in the second inning. So, and yeah, in the second innings, we saw Yorkshire going for it. They played almost like in just 54 overs, they scored a 286 for 8 and then gave Leicester to chase a 392 in the fourth inning. So they thought they were really confident. But then Rishi Patel, again, he came in with a clutch 100. He's an Essex born Leicester opener. I think he played for the Essex, the younger division teams. But then he moved to Leicester. So he stepped up with a clutch 100. And then Colin Ackerman and Peter Hanscom. Colin Ackerman, again, from the Netherlands. It's also important to look at all these players in, the nations around the United Kingdom. So Colin Ackerman and then Peter Hanscom as well. So they led Leicester to a 3-wicket victory. So what we see is two teams actually gained maximum points of 22 over the weekend, maximize their bonus points with the win. So Leicester being one of them. And then there was Worcestershire and versus Derbyshire. So here it was a pretty even game, but actually you see that Worcester actually, dominated it after a point. Even though it was like they did gain maximum points, but Derbyshire was also somewhere there in the middle. We have once a really strong all-round performance from Matthew Waite. So he actually took a 4 in the first innings and then also chipped in with a few runs in the second. And in the fourth innings, we saw Jake Libby capping off a dominant performance by Worcester as they just cruised to a target of 193 and won by 8 wickets. Moving on to the last game, Gloucester versus Glamorgan. Here we have a big name for Australia's opening woes. So you have Marcus Harris, who actually to start off with, Gloucester started off the match really poorly with 165. Marcus Harris being the only person who got a 50 in that. And then we had a Dutch bowler, Van der Gupten, who got a 5-er. And then Glamorgan in return amassed 400 runs. And we had Billy Root. Billy Root is actually Joe Root's younger brother. That's something I thought was really interesting. He scored 100. And yeah, it was just nice to see a Root somewhere in there. And then, Gloucester, after their 165 all out in the first innings, came back with 569 for 7 in the second innings. Although they didn't get any bonus points for it, we had 100 from Marcus Harris in the second innings and also 100 by someone called Graham Van Buren, who's a South African, and he was unbeaten on 100. So this match pretty much, Gloucester actually saved the test match there, and then it just became a stalemate after a point. So that was, I think, one of the lesser interesting. It was interesting for the first day, but then it slowly went off to a stalemate towards the end. So that pretty much was a roundup for Division 2. Some really big names in there. I also hear that Steve Smith has signed a 3-match deal with Sussex. So it'll be very interesting to see a nightmare for bowlers with Steve Smith and Pujara batting in the same team.
Steve Smith batting under India's vice captain.
I think, thanks Rahul for basically wrapping up an entire division's worth of cricket in a couple of minutes time. Yes, we have really gone quickly with some of these matches, but as you all can see, this is the first episode, so bear with us. But yeah, just to wrap up, Worcestershire and Leicestershire are at the top of the Division 2 with 22 points, and looking at Division 1, it's Essex who lead with 20 points. So guys, quickly before we wrap up, I want everybody to just give their one standout player who is our Back to the Roots podcast player of the week. So I'm going to start off with who I think wasn't maybe the best performer, but somebody who I watched and I was really impressed by. I would go Sean Abbott for week 1. Ved, who do you want to nominate?
I think it'll be Cameron Steele for me. Batting that low down the order, getting 141 of 182 is bonkers. So
I mean, baseball at its finest. I know Satvik, you shouted it out before.
No, I think I've changed it. I'll change it. After Rahul demonstrated the full division, I think Matthew Waite.
Okay.
He had all-round performance.
Yeah, exactly. I thought about it. I wanted to say the Indian outside of me wanted to say Pujara, so badly. But I think if I had to clear my mind and say it, I think it would be Matthew Wade.
Yeah, I think let's keep Pujara out of it. He gets so many accolades
Yeah.
anyway. He doesn't need another one from
A
us.
big name for me actually were two Australians. I think Marcus Harris doing well in England is really important because we know Warner's history with Stuart Broad. You don't know how the Ashes may go, uh, but but
We
I think
also know
having a
umpire's history
solid,
in Ashes.
yeah, yeah, having a solid left arm batsman getting a 50 in the first innings and a 165 in the second innings is really solid. So I think Marcus Harris for me after that 165 all out to come back and get 569 for 7. I think he would be my standout player in Division 2.
Perfect. I think thanks guys for Division 1 and Division 2's week 1 wrap up. We'll see you guys next week for a bit more of the action. Hopefully there's a lot more games. Can't guarantee
You.
the weather, to be very honest, in England right now. But hopefully, yeah, we have a cracker of a game. And see you all next week. Thank you. Bye bye.
See you. Bye bye.